That's been too long.
Let's get going. Hey everyone, you'll be recording. Yes, hey everyone, welcome back to the pod presented by Shiptember. Delighted to welcome on our guest today, the brilliant Marnix Rekkers. Welcome, Marnix.
Thank you for having me.
So, it's been a very long time since we last spoke. A time where, if you thought about it like, say, in creative terms, a beautiful amount of time to create something very amazing. But firstly, before we get into any of that, did I mispronounce your name? Because I hope time hasn't made me butcher your name.
That's correct. I think it's
Okay,
pretty
cool.
well spoken. I'm surprised that when I'm talking with people from outside the Netherlands, they are capable of having a pretty accurate pronunciation of my name, which
Nice.
I found weirdly to have that happen more in the Netherlands being mispronounced than outside the
Interesting.
Netherlands, which is
Interesting. I guess, like, for English speakers, your name is basically, I think, spelt as it's pronounced, or at least
exactly, yeah.
the consonants and the vowels and stuff. So that's definitely helpful. But just for the record, one thing I've realized podcasting over these years is I am absolutely terrible at pronouncing names. And also, originally, I guess, I'm quite ignorant at thinking I could pronounce them. So it's definitely humbled me in that regard. But we're here for your career, your journey, your spaceships, and all that good stuff in between. Before we get into all the good stuff, if you wouldn't mind giving everybody a quick origin story bio as to who Marnix is.
Well, I'm a concept designer who specializes in vehicles, hard surface design, mechanical design, robotics, stuff like that. And I'm mostly hired to design starships. And I think that started a couple of years ago when I was first hired to work on the game In the Black, which at that point was called Starfighter Inc. Or Starfighter Incorporated, which was a hard science based space combat game where you would fly in small fighter craft in our solar system. The game is still in development, but yeah, I studied here in the Netherlands. I went to university for game development. I even got my master's degree in game technology, which had to do with the subtle understanding of how mechanical designs actually trigger certain elements in the brain and how you can exploit that to create better designs. So it's basically very high level design, something you tend to develop over a long career of doing design work. And in the meantime, I've worked with a lot of small companies. I worked with a few bigger ones, and I recently finished working on the DLC, the upcoming DLC for Stellaris, where I did almost all of the starship designs. I worked
Excellent.
together with a pretty interesting team, and I became a senior. So from that point, I basically had to not only make the starships, but were also directly responsible for for the implementation, or well, not if something was wrong with the design or with how it was translated to 3D, then it was always my fault. So, um, so yeah, you get a lot more respect, but you also get a lot more responsibilities as a senior.
hmm
So that's something you have to deal with, which is it was a lot of fun because the project was a lot of fun. The team was a lot of fun, and yeah, I've been mostly designing starships.
Excellent. Definitely right on brand then in terms of like what we'll be talking about today. Interesting to hear, and also great to hear all the things you've done since we last spoke. I mean, when we last spoke, which was we still haven't decided when that was, but we
It was
last
too
around
long
like
ago. It was too long ago.
2018. So like, yeah, a very long time ago. I remember were you just at uni then, or just started uni?
That was before I started uni, I think.
Okay.
Well, or maybe I just started it. It was probably no, it was exactly a month before I actually started uni. That's
Uh-huh.
what I do now. So yeah, that's 2017, I think. So that's a long time ago.
Wow. Do you remember what your creative life was like, and even your, I guess, approach to design, and even just your interest in general. Do you remember what it was like back then?
That's an interesting question. As you're probably the first one who ever asked a question like that.
Okay.
So let me try and answer that. I think back then my focus was on using the fanciest new software and technique, which I had no understanding of, to create the fanciest images. That was from the time I wasn't really thinking about design. That was the moment because back then I was just starting out. So you see all the flashy stuff on the internet, and you sort of understand all the techniques that are being used, but you don't understand how you actually implement it. But I mean, you know, Photoshop, you know, placing photos over each other and just cutting things out and stuff. You know how to build boxes in 3D and project some textures on it because you've just kind of fixed it in Photoshop. Kind of the mentality of
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, I can do this because I know the technology. Why doesn't why doesn't anybody want to hire me? You know
Yeah.
that was kind of the stuff. Like that's why I went to the industry workshops because even though I thought I was good at what I did, I probably one of the few in my class at the time that was actually capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no, that was just after finishing graphic design. And in graphic design, what we learned was not that applicable. That it wasn't really preparing us for the industry as graphic designers. So I also didn't have the understanding of how to approach most of the design process as well. So that's why I spent all my money trying to get to the industry workshops, talk to other professionals, and learn from them, and learn to understand what was going on and what I was missing. And oh boy, I learned a lot. I basically lacked almost all of the fundamentals in design.
Mm-hmm.
I lacked fundamentals in art. I didn't understand what I was doing because from the creative side, from my hometown and the Dutch sphere of influence, as you can say it,
Mm.
as soon as you go into art, you go to a modern art school, and it's very complant, complement. I don't know.
Complimentary?
No. Yes,
No.
but also very. It's more about your personal expression. It's, well, yeah, there's an art school, but we're not gonna. Uh, but, but, but you're not gonna learn like Rembrandt because yeah, it's real art, but it's not real art. So we're not gonna teach you any. That was kind of the mentality. So
Mm.
everybody's trying to be supportive of your creativity, but nobody's has the guts to tell you, well, this is just not gonna work. And
Mm.
also being very stubborn when people who don't do anything with art at all say like, "Well, you could improve," and then me being stubborn, but what do you know? You don't know. You don't do any art.
Yeah.
You know that's kind of stuff like. Uh, that had to be just a sledgehammer had to be taken and had to be just
Sick.
taken out of my mind and the way I was thinking back then. Now that I think about it, it's like it's so obvious and so stupid. But no, why was I like this?
That's
But
interesting. Sorry, please.
but yeah, it really helped going to the industry workshops, going to IFCC, where all of these art directors, all of these big names, really gave you this all of this feedback. And so this is what the industry actually needs. This is what you
Mm.
actually do in the industry. This is what all of these people do in the industry. This is where you are absolutely wrong. This is all the stuff you're lacking. And based on that thing, I started to understand that I was lacking just a lot of skill, a lot of fundamentals, and all kinds of and all kinds of the stuff you actually need to become a designer. You need to learn how to think. You need to develop an interest. You need to learn that it's not about the software you're using, but more about the principles of how something works, for example. And that has to do with color theory. It has to do with anatomy. It has to do with how mechanics work, how products are being made, and all that kind of stuff. Which at that time I had no visual concept of. I was
Mm.
just like, I got this book for my birthday called Cosmic Motors, and it was the coolest things ever. And I don't know what that was, but I wanted to do that, and somehow I'm gonna do that someday. but I didn't understand how you had to how to be able to learn to do that. Like, yeah, so this guy's using some 3D software. I'm using 3D software. I can do this. Well, yeah, that doesn't. That's not how it works.
Oh man, that's so fascinating to hear. So how old are you when you discovered cosmic motors?
I think I was around 17, 18.
Ah, okay, okay, interesting. So cosmic motors. I wasn't aware of that about yourself. Maybe we spoke about it back then, but it has been a long time, so my memory has deleted some files. But cosmic motors was the trigger, the seismic event that made me want to pursue entertainment design, because that was the body of work, the way it was done. I don't know how it was. Maybe it was delivered, etc. Especially at a time which seemed, now, if you look at cosmic motors, it seems easy to understand the steps taken to make something like that. Back then, when, so I was, I think, in my 20s. I was just the year before I finished university. I did transport design, bit more rigid than obviously entertainment design, but obviously a lot of cool things you learned. But I wanted to work in films, etc., and games and whatnot. And then I saw Cosmic Motors, and it was a guy who worked in transport design. Obviously, Daniel Simon. For those that are not, who are not familiar with Cosmic Motors, it's absolutely insane, that book. At that time, he was learning surfacing. Just discovered Maya. It didn't seem possible to even do something that quick. Even Photoshop, for those that were using it, was like a long haul. It was like not easy to, at least the kind of circle that I was in, to do things quickly, rapidly. Then you saw Cosmic Motors, thinking, how the hell is this possible? But it was possible because it was right in front of you.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Like, that Cosmic Motors had the same effect for yourself as well. So shout out to Daniel Simon for that impressive, groundbreaking thing for me, at
Yeah.
least, and obviously clearly for yourself as well. For so I remember what we I had one thing I do remember though back then. I had this conversation with you, where we, I think, connected initially was on through Facebook, I think, and we just shared designs. Obviously, appreciated his posts, etc. You were doing a ton of sci-fi spaceships and all that kind of good stuff as well, and I think that's where the mutual appreciation came from. And I remember having this conversation with you because, like you said, like you were about to embark on university, and I could see that obviously you had some skill level, and I remember telling you, and obviously that was me at the age of over 30 years old at the time, telling you, don't go to uni. You got the skills, just work on it, you'll get work. Obviously, you didn't go down that path. So what was that path like since?
Well, the interesting part about it, that's I think going to uni actually did a lot more for me than what in most cases happens when you go to university. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people think it's better work on yourself, and then because what they teach you in university is probably not applicable, and that has to do with, unfortunately, a big part of how the education system works. However, I went to what you call in the Netherlands a excellent school, which means they are allowed to turn students down instead of just accepting everybody and then just waiting for people to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that they allow around 200 people each year to enter, and that's then split over. The course is called IGAT, Interactive Game Architecture and Design, which is purely focused on game development. And you have art, programming, and design. And designers go from level designers to producers, kind of stuff. Programming does everything that works, and art goes from concept art to technical art and everything in between. And with mostly focus on production. The thing what I learned from there is I developed a work ethic. I developed a way of learning how to learn. Something I think I was lacking a lot before, but maybe also wasn't able to be prepared for that stuff because I am autistic. I was diagnosed with severe autism as a child, so it's so you have so many more things to navigate, deal with while trying to learn, and maybe I wasn't ready to take on so much information yet, or was able to ready to develop my own work ethic, because you get distracted, you get very easily manipulated by flashy colors or completely shut down by it, and but it allowed me to create some form of process. It allowed me to understand the way how you can plan your work, develop the way of being able to finish your work schedule for a long time, like for 8 weeks. You start to schedule and develop a working ethic and a work technique that allows you to deliver in that time. Which, when you think about it, you can always plan something for the next day or the day after, from like, I can do it in this time, but longer than that it becomes very abstract, and a lot of people think it's quite easy to deal with because they don't have a lot of those problems. But if you really think about it, trying to develop a schedule for when you understand when you can deliver things in a certain amount of time, and that's for a certain quality, and that's for multiple weeks. That's actually quite difficult, and a lot of people at my university were struggling with that. And I think that learning those qualities and developing a work ethic, so you have always a very consistent input and output system going subconsciously, allowed me to develop my skills, because it allowed me to compartmentalize the way how I learned certain basic techniques, how I learned the fundamentals of design, how I started to understand design in general. Like, I was able to not just have everything, but I was able to chop it up in little bits and then work on those little bits and then learn, why does this work this way? How does this work this way? It wasn't a smooth. It was not a smooth path. That's kind of obvious. That's why you go to school. You got to learn. You got to learn how to deal and navigate with that. But I think that being able to understand those processes and be consistent with that is probably one of the strongest elements that I've been able to develop, what I've learned, because that allowed me to be very consistent with my work. I mean, I not every day I work 8 hours a day. Some I only work 4, and the other I work 10 or 12. But I know I can be consistent in a certain amount of time and what I can deliver in that amount of time. And then you can also manage the expectations. And that's if you can work with that, you can be very valuable for a production team, because you can plan entire productions that can take 2 to maybe 3 years. But I've always been interested in the vehicles and mechanical and all the machine, all the things that move and go into each other, and then giant hands start to move and all that kind of stuff. So, and I find that fascinating. But I think that definitely going back to university has allowed me to develop the work ethic that then and it landed me my first real AAA job, and that was starting to work at OpusArts. And with OpusArts, they have this. They used to have this program where they hire one junior. They're like a 5-man operation, and then they hire one junior to be there for a couple of months, and then either they hire them for a longer period or they go do whatever. And basically, they force you to focus specifically on developing a pretty fast workflow, and I think that it helped me that I was already developing a work ethic that then went into production, so I could work and deal a lot more with those problems. And the first few months, it was just like, all right, let's do this, let's do that, focus on this, focus on that, push, and it definitely helped. And I learned some neat little tricks, and I developed this idea, or I developed this technique of a daily warm-up before you do your official work, which is mandatory at OpusArts. And the idea is to warm up your brain so you can start thinking, you can start working, you can practice things you're struggling with, and all that kind of stuff. And after half an hour to an hour of making something, your brain is warmed up enough to actually do your official work. So it's those processes that then also helped, and I worked on a couple of projects. We worked for Agiact, which is a VR company. We worked for FIFA. We did a couple of smaller projects. I think we were even hired to do some work for Honkai, but most of it's under wraps, unfortunately. Um, I just joined the studio after they were done working on God of War, so God of War Ragnarok. So Björn is famous for all of his monsters and creatures he did for that
Yes.
um, but I joined just after that, and like almost 3 years later, when we were already working on something else, what's supposed to be something really big. It's like, look at all the cool work that's now being released because God of War Ragnarok
Yeah.
is going to be released, and they were like, well, we did that over for almost 4 years ago. And it's like, wow, that's the nature of the industry.
Yeah.
And I went back to do my master's degree because I thought it was gonna be a useful thing to do, and I just was interested in the higher learning and maybe the more academic side of things. But I also wanted to prove something to myself because I was always really, really bad at school. So
Mm. When did you so how long was the gap from finishing your degree to doing the masters?
that was around 3 years because
Hmm.
I did my degree, I got my bachelor's, and I started working at OpenSart for 3 years, and then after that, I went back to university and I basically quit working at OpenSart because I wasn't able to do a master's degree and doing full-time work with them. And yeah, after that, it was a bit sketchy in terms of work because I just graduated and then the industry basically collapsed. So it was very hard to find work.
Yeah.
But almost just half a year later, it's the work just started coming back and everything started flooding in. So in the meantime, I had to deal with very small projects. I was talking with lots of studios about possibilities, and everything was chaos back then. Uh, and I just kept drawing my starships, which got the
Hmm.
attention of an art director who was like, "Hey, we're working on a project. Would you be interested?" And then I was brought on board for a small project, and a month or two later, I got asked to work on a bigger project, and then um, and at that moment, the moment I signed the day after I signed the contract with those guys, where I was supposed to start just in a few weeks, some other guys came like, "Oh, so working on this major, we're gonna build this major title, and we need somebody who can do all of this work, and we want you." I'm like, "Cool." I just had the contract with these guys, so it's
Yeah.
like they would allow me to work on other projects besides, but I'll be working with those guys full time. And they're like, "Well, that's unfortunate because we would love to work with you, but we want somebody in-house full time for a long period." And they're like, "Well, yeah, I can't say no to these guys because I just signed the contract." So
Mm.
stuff like that.
Wow. I guess that's kind of a good problem to have
Yes.
when you got a few things happening. But like you just said, like you've also seen it when it's not a good problem. So just going back to uni, for example, it's a lot of interesting things that you mentioned. Mainly because of a few family members recently have been diagnosed with it, or getting diagnosed with it. I have researched and become more aware of people who are neurodivergent, obviously autism spectrum disorder, like you just mentioned there. And by the sounds, now that fully explained, even when as soon as you mentioned that, I understood why the uni journey, aside from obviously the education that you got, why it made sense and why it was useful for you. And also seeing your designs grow over the years as well, you can see where that's gone into. But for that, just to specifically focus on that, do you think it was because that university and the curriculum did break down to a functional level what the basic inner workings of not only the industry but also these processes and tools and all these kind of things that are involved in the production process? Is that, do you think, what really appealed to you the most or really benefited you the most?
I think it was specifically the environment at school is where you
Ah,
actually are allowed to actually learn do your own thing, and you're
uh-huh.
not graded on if you not followed the curriculum, but what you developed and what you learned from it. That's the difference because
Mm-hmm.
the whole curriculum is basically you're going to learn how to develop a video game. You're gonna start learning with 3D software. You're gonna try animation, and that's for cinematics or in-game stuff. You're gonna learn how to work with Houdini. So if you go into more technical side, procedural simulation, that kind of stuff, you're gonna learn to work with engines. You're gonna learn how to optimize models. So if you go for that 3D development route, how does texture work? How does light work? All that kind of stuff. And at the first year, you just gonna learn gonna get a taste a bit of everything, and then the next by the final week, you're gonna work in a small team of like 5 to 10 people to develop a small video game that you get 8 weeks for to develop and publish. So, but after the end of 8 weeks, you need to have something that functions. And then the second year, it's a lot more focused on those things, like what you like to do or what your affinity, where you have affinity. You're gonna get pushed more in those directions and see if that works for you. And then you're gonna work on a few small game projects. And you're gonna learn to develop those things. And then by the third year, you are in full-time production. So you get 1 year, 60 people together, developing one full game. And that's the idea if everything goes smoothly. It usually doesn't go smoothly because students and people don't exactly know what they're doing. Things can get chaotic. And the idea is that after the third year, you actually have a video game that functions, that's playable, that you can publish, because that's not only good for your portfolio, but that's also great for showing that you can actually do production, that you can actually deliver something, that you understand the processes, that you understand the pipeline. And I think that specific element of that course makes it such a viable is what made it such a viable course.
Amazing. And why go back to education again? What did you feel like you were missing, or was it not even that? You wanted to add something else, perhaps?
There were many things. Because I think it would be nice to become an art director someday. I think that could be a fun job. Maybe I'll do it for a month and I'm like, you know what, fuck this. I mean, I've talked to some art directors who were like, yeah, it was nice for a few years, but I really missed actually doing the art stuff. So they went back to, and then they have to, and then they start becoming just these very top skilled artists, just doing God's work in terms of just wow what they can deliver, which makes sense. Like maybe I love it, maybe I hate it. I don't know, but I think I was like. I think there were some things I wanted to understand and want to explore, but didn't know how to articulate it properly. And I think it was more or less echoed by other professionals in the industry. But the thing with that is, artists and especially the people in our field don't usually write academic papers. So everything it is just hearsay, speculation, just talking to each other. But because I was always incredibly bad at primary school and high school, I was very bad at just school. And
What do you mean by bad?
Well, it's a miracle if I got any positive grades. That's the kind of level of quality. I was never in the top class. I was never in this class of smart people. I was always put in the places where all the dumb people were because I had trouble learning and dyslexia and stuff like that. So it's really tough to just get through high school. But I actually wanted to prove something, not only to myself, but I think mostly to myself, but also when people try to say that school is difficult and education isn't important. It's like, well, you know, the people tend to look at you differently if you have a master's degree than instead of just finish high school and just start working. And no matter how successful you are, there's this weird behavior that people tend to talk about that it exists, and then I'd like to think that people are overreacting to it, and then I did my master's, and then I noticed that, holy shit, people really are like this. It's weird. But I think mostly I really wanted to prove something to myself. Like, the education system sucks, actually I'm really smart, and
Yes. Well, now it just proves it. So just a follow-up question. I think you could answer it there. Do you think it was more the education system being so rigid, not able to see your qualities and assess them in
yeah,
your way?
yeah, and I think that's kind of the issue with high school and primary school education, where it's like, well, just focus in class because you have to, instead of let's see how we can help you improve, and how can we
Mm-hmm.
help you learn. I think that's a big issue. I mean,
Interesting.
uh, in my master's class, there was also a guy who studied specifically trying to show that the education system sucks, and well, he had a 4.0 grade score on his masters. He just had basically a full on A on everything for his master's degree. So it's like, here, the education system sucks.
Sick,
Let me
sick.
show you.
I mean, that's an interesting topic in and of itself. Just generally speaking, so it's quite poetic from your journey. So in the institution, the rigid setup that's been, I guess copy and pasted every single year for God knows how many decades. That is something where you were ranked lower based on the assessments. Yet when you branch out, you're able to dictate what you want to learn, what you want to improve on. You would think somebody who had that experience in the education system would not want to go anywhere near it again. Yet you dove right back into it in all the higher stages. And I think that's fascinating. And I think it does kind of highlight a bit of a blind spot that I guess society has in terms of what, clearly there's something there that needs to be fixed. And yes, you're in a situation where you did that, but it could have gone completely different. And maybe you
Could
didn't go
have.
down that way. And who knows? Obviously, not trying to put down on things, but that's the story that happens to a lot of people. So
I think if I
kudos to you
didn't
for doing that, man.
well, the thing is, I think if I didn't go back to school, if I didn't go back to my education, if I didn't try to relearn learn everything, then I probably would have still been struggling a lot as an artist and designer. Because the big thing is I learned was there was a lot of connection, but it's understanding how the processes work. It's a work ethic. It's being
Mm-hmm.
able to assess my own qualities and skills and deliverables and stuff like that. Uh, which are the more subconscious side of learning, of going through the process of learning all these things that allowed me to develop so much better than I might have done beforehand. But on the more skill-based level and quality of my design work, that wasn't just purely because I went back to school. That's also because I had a few mentorships with Edon Gorazi, Maarten Hermans, Jort van Welberg, a couple of those guys. You know, their mentorships actually really boosted my skills and quality as well, because that was more the skill level side of how to approach a lot of those things, and education was the subconscious side of the more soft skill, the things you tend not to think about, like how are you staying motivated to do your job, that kind of stuff. And I think it's a combination of those things together that allowed me to develop.
Mm.
And if I didn't do that, then I probably would have been struggling 10 times more.
Wow. Now that's amazing to see and to hear. And I think for anyone who's listening who may be a bit early on in their journey, maybe going for the same kind of pathway that you have, or going for the same kind of things, definitely let this sink in and hopefully helps you. So, spaceships.
Yeah.
Where did your love of spaceships begin? Is there a beginning?
Maybe. I've, as far as I know, I've always been interested in science to a certain extent. I've always been interested in books about space. There's those images from NASA about space, the images of rockets flying up. I'm not sure if I still have those books, but I used to have lots of these books with explanations where they have these breakdowns of how a rocket ship fits together. how the Saturn V rocket works and that kind of stuff. And I've always been completely amazed um, by those things. We have this museum in the Netherlands. It's pretty far away from where I live. It's like 2 hours travel, or at least it's not far in terms of distance. It's just
Hmm.
not an easy path to get to it. About space, and I think the very first time I saw that, I was just amazed by everything. I might not have been smart enough to become a scientist and actually go
Right.
into space, something like that. But on the other hand, I just designed the starships because it's a way of getting close to that. But I mean, I used to have books about dinosaurs as well, so I think
Same. Yeah.
all of those things somehow always trigger something within me that allows me where
Ah,
I'm like, yeah, this is just super cool. I want to know more about this. I want to do something with this.
interesting.
But
So
also,
it's like it's from the appreciation or the intrigue of science or like things that you saw that triggers what ends up
yeah.
becoming a spaceship rather than this spaceship is what I want to kind of recreate or emulate.
Yeah, I think it's never been like I want to create exactly the same thing. It's more like that's a starship. I also want to be able to create starships.
Uh-huh,
Like
uh-huh.
it's there's certain freedom in the possibilities of everything we don't know, and I think
Mm,
that's one of those things that really that subconsciously always triggers within my mind when I see a new Star Wars film, for example. It's a huge Star. I love Star Wars. I love The Matrix. I love Stargate. That's also one of Star
nice.
Trek. I was. Uh, that's one of those things I've watched as a child on TV. That was, I think, the earliest was Star Trek Voyager, and then later on I learned about Deep Space Nine, and then about the Next Generation. Usually people learn it in the other way, in the other
Yeah,
direction,
yeah.
but that was um, I Stargate as well. It's one of those things that's super cool. But I think maybe it really started with the Iron Giant, the original that went into theaters, and maybe I was like I think 6 years old
Yeah.
when that film came out, or it was in it's early 2000 when that film came out, so 2000 2001 or something. But my parents took me to that, and that's there was something about that film that just was amazing.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it was just the animation, the style and quality of the animation, and this alien robot being this huge otherworldly machine that was just magical to a certain
Mm.
extent to me. And then I think something always stuck with me after that film. Maybe it was the heroic sacrifice where he literally dies on screen. Spoilers alert. It's a very emotional scene, especially when you're a 6-year-old child. You see a giant robot, and giant
Yeah.
robot is really cool, and then he just fucking dies, and he
Yes.
stays dead, and that's like, yeah, that's it. You know. So maybe that might have set something off in my brain that was so
Fair enough.
emotionally to me that was like that since then giant robots and science fiction has always stuck
Yeah.
with me.
Oh, nice. I enjoy it. Is amazing. I saw the film. It's a book. It's originally based on a book. I don't know if you were aware of that. My kid read that in school. So she's actually knows the story from the book versus I think she's in the film as well. But yeah, Brad Bird, I believe, directed that. Who went on to do Incredibles and a few Mission Impossibles. Excellent. I think not only in terms of just a film in general, but in terms of design, action, the pacing, he clearly gets how to exploit animation to its best, in my opinion. And I think that's one of his first major features. That's, I think, a great example. So you mentioned a few great examples of things that contain excellent spaceships and designs and things like that. Do you have a few? Are you? I don't know how I am sometimes. Sometimes I definitely have like favorites and things that really stand out to me. But sometimes I think I don't care about specific designs. I just like the genre of it, or more so the fact that you can explore in this space. But putting yourself in the hot seat, do you have any kind of like spaceship designs that you consider amazing, like complete inspirations for you?
Uh, the most generic answer is of course Star Wars.
Hmm.
But because those designs are just so incredibly iconic. It's just when I think about it, I've played a lot of space games as well, and I think that what Homeworld does is something truly unique. Because those designs, even in Homeworld 3, I know a lot of people don't really like it because the gameplay is it's not as perfect as the first three games. But the designs of of those ships, especially not the mothership, but all the other smaller ships, they tend to be incredibly well designed. They have a very specific shape language that you understand. They are from this faction, they are from that faction. You kind of understand what most of them have to do, and you can easily identify them from a distance, and allows you to understand the type of enemies, the type of ships you're facing, and how to deal with that. And that's something really, really, really special. I think they did a fantastic job on that as well. And one of the earliest space games I played was Imperium Galactica, which again is a space strategy game. It had some phenomenal designs, and when I look back at them, it's like, okay, so this is from a very, very early era in computer games where 3D was just invented, but they still managed to do something with it. This
Okay.
is the time from when IK handles in animation. You know, the system that allow for feet to also be on the ground and have your weight and things interact with the environment actually function didn't exist yet. So you
Hmm.
have cutscenes where people just walk like this if they're running because they were all hand animated because you don't have all these advanced animation techniques yet in 3D animation yet. Uh, but I think there's a combination of that it comes down more to the genre itself than specific designs. I think it's very specifically when I love the designs more when it's clear they fit in the setting and they have a clear purpose.
Mm.
I even love the designs in the Rebel Moon
I haven't
films.
seen that yet.
People criticize it for being a very bad variant of my own version of Star Wars with blackjack and hookers.
Okay.
But that I see where they're coming from. I clearly see why people don't like it. I don't hate it. There are issues with the story, but I'd like people to just watch it. It's but their starship designs are actually really cool. They're very
Mm.
well designed, and they fit the idea of the genre what they're going for. These starships are mostly like these specialized imperial kind of starships from 1900s naval naval style combat. Yeah, that's how they seem to be designed and how they seem to be implemented. But because they're starships, they can go to planets and go to space and do that kind of stuff. It's uh, the design work of them is great. That's something, yeah. Again, when applied with purpose, they are phenomenal.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I, especially in the early Star Wars, and especially and as well during the Clone Wars era of Star Wars, most of the starships and the mechanics they designed for those films and for the series, it's very specifically. Most of them had a specific purpose,
Hmm.
and they all fit. Even though they're completely different eras, you understand that the moment you see it, you know it fits together.
Mm.
Some is from an earlier time, some is from a later time, but to me it never really felt out of place. It's
Mm.
always there are very odd designs, but not never out of place because they tend to always be designed with either a purpose of functionality or like it's a cultural thing from one of the planets they're on, like the Wookiees. They have these catamaran
Yes.
flying um, 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 uh, what's those birds called? That there's it's like a catamaran insect-like thing, but
Hmm.
everything from the Wookiees is designed with those natural elements. Everything it
Yes.
fits with exactly what the
Yes.
Wookiees are. Uh, they look completely different from the droid armies, and yeah, that makes sense because they're not the same. But the droid armies have their specific purposes, and they show some kind of intimidation with the eyes and the word and the weird elements, as if they're somehow still a living thing, but mechanical. But the Wookiees have all of these natural wooden designs, but very high tech wooden structures and everything. It's like they knew exactly what they were doing, and it's
Mm.
fascinating to see because they do not feel out of place. They feel exactly what they're designed for. That's something that always fascinates me about Star Wars. And it's kind of an issue I have with the Marvel franchise.
Mm.
They have some really cool starships, but almost everything feels like, well, it's magic. Here, just now you
Yeah.
can fly. It's
Yeah.
at a certain point, I can't take it serious anymore. It's like, yeah, but it's almost like there's no established rules for their designs. It's
That's
just,
a very interesting point because you just nailed it. Like there's a disconnect I feel with. I like some Marvel films, but I don't have a desire to want to check each one out like I do with the Star Wars one, for example, or any, like spaceship centric ones specifically. Mainly because I think of what you just said, like with Star Wars and other stuff, you get the world building aspect. Like each ship is almost like a mascot or the banner of that particular world. And with Marvel, it is more like mythological, as in like, yeah, we're not going to explain it. It's just there. It's more of an avatar of this way to, like wherever it might be, like to travel or whatever, rather than how this works, how that works, and everything else as well. So now that's. Thank you for helping me understand my relationship with the Marvel universe,
well, I don't
or at least
think,
the MCU, right? Not the Marvel
yeah,
universe overall.
um, Marvel has good stories, DC has good stories, but um, it's just like I haven't read most comics of them because it's just okay, so this is issue 1 of 100 of series 120, and that was from the one from 2001. It's not the same as the one from 2000 because that's from another line. It's like, you know what, it's fine, let's just go with it, right? But the MCU started off really really strong, and they had this fascinating way of doing the tech. Everything, even though it's completely insane how from a small box of metal so much more metal can sprout, but it was very well thought of how everything fit together, how that all functions, stuff like that. All of these heroes, even up until the first Avengers film, it all seems to be working out, and the stuff that didn't wasn't like that was just space magic. And the space magic was very consistent with the alien invaders.
Mm,
So it's very clear, okay, so we don't understand this, they have their magic, do their thing. All right, cool. And we have
mm,
all of this mechanical stuff. We have all these heroes working together. They all have their purpose. They all have the. And then it started becoming worse and worse and worse. It's like, okay, so we have a starship that can only do this. Like it's just a normal starship. It has limitations, except for this instance where it actually goes over all the limitations. But it can't do that anymore. But it still can because we need the plot to happen. So it doesn't have these limitations. Well, now it's different. And now we have this incredibly well designed
mm.
ship with all of these little trinkets and everything, and that has to work in this way. Except we don't because we have a plot to happen, and it's like, and at that point, And at that point, you had Iron Man just having nanobots all everywhere. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, he needs more power. What does he do? His nanobots change the afterburner of his suit. So why couldn't he just use more power that was already in the suit? At that moment, my brain was like, "Fuck this!
But then,
I
but then,
I am out."
but then that's like more. I totally get you. But then when you look at it from, I guess, the industry of entertainment, and it is a comic, I guess, like a comic book on screen. So there are these absurd things that happen in comics and these kind of stories. Just a case of, okay, there's this threat or there's this kind of like imbalance between the hero and the villain. So how do we kind of match it up? And we have the dynamic thing. And I guess that is where, as a designer and a creative, like that kind of dance you have to have with what the script demands versus something cool versus trying to sell it so the director actually accepts it, etc., etc. And I think that is where, like, I guess the real challenges do come about. Although I've got to say, I just mentioned there about Marvel ships, and specifically one of my favorite ship designs is actually from a Marvel film. I don't forget which one was one that George Hull designed, the mining ship in Guardians of the Galaxy, where the lasers are like little balls that track around the whole ship and they move around. Like, it's one of my favorite designs ever. So shout out to George Hall for that. Do you have any designers that are your heroes, at least on the spaceship side?
I think Doc Chang, because he's an incredible artist, incredible designer. George Hull as well, because he is an incredible designer. He I definitely think that someone like Mike Hill, for example, is also like his design work, the stuff he designed for Call of Duty and for Killzone, those ships. They are so fascinatingly well designed. They are so super cool. It's he really goes in trying to figure out how everything is supposed to work from a gameplay perspective, and how you interact with it, and also how that then also translates into the style it has to present and everything. It's incredible work. I also know that people don't like to talk about him anymore because he's quite a controversial figure at this point. And from his online persona during the Corona crisis, and I don't want to spit the fire, but I understand why people don't want to interact with him anymore. Why he isn't as popular as a designer anymore. But I can't deny the quality of his design works that he did before that. Like the Killzone Shadowfall ship, for example, is absolutely top tier design work. The Call of Duty Starships, it's great work. It's so this requires some really good fundamental understanding of design principles. So he knows what he's doing. It's incredible design work.
Let's get to our, I guess, specialist segments, we could call it. Sure. Let's start off with the Cryopod. So I guess you can give the backstory as to the scenario and what have you, as to why you're in that cryopod. But essentially, you're in this cryopod a few light years now that you have to travel for before you can carry on living your life, hopefully. What 3 things that would you take with you that are important for you, either as a creative or maybe as a person, along the journey?
Yeah, that's something where I thought I had the answers for it, but then
right.
I guess I don't again. I think I would definitely bring like a sketchbook and a pen or something like that, because somehow that's gonna be useful. That can always be useful. And yeah. If it's a scenario where, well, it's a long space travel, I'll definitely hope I'll still be wearing my spacesuit just in case, 'cause,
Okay.
if you're being found and they cut up the ship and they get you out, and you don't know what the atmosphere is like, having your spacesuit on just in case, because
well, hopefully that's a standard issue, so hopefully you should have that on. But I guess having a backup, it doesn't, is a nice thing to have.
And I think something like having something like a camera with me, something that allows me to
Nice.
capture moments, like for example, the spaceship crashes on an alien planet, and you have to
Yeah, yeah,
find your
yeah.
way. Uh, Being able to record basically where you've been is probably not only a great survival tactic, but in the end might allow you to tell a really cool story, or maybe you interact with locals and they don't know what you are. And you might not see them anymore, or they might be fascinating, and you want to capture those moments. Uh, and with a sketchbook and everything, you can sketch, you can draw, you can try and communicate with people, and then that's good for survival, and it's very low tech, so you're not beholden to any power outages.
Sick.
uh,
Nice. Cool. I like them. Very functional and very purposeful. Um, Dropship. So I've been calling these different things in the early episodes, but I think I'm going to call this segment Dropship. You've got many great designs, and like I said before, seeing how you've evolved as a designer over the years is as has been enjoyable as is your designs as well. So you got a lot to choose from. You got a rich array, a body of work from the past, present, and also I'm sure what's coming next. Which one of those designs would do you think would fit perfectly in an existing IP or universe that you haven't contributed to yet?
I think my helicopter would be a great fit for a new Call of
Okay,
Duty game, because Call of Duty is still,
that's the
well,
Raptor helicopter.
yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
cool.
they tend to Call of Duty tends to they try to keep it realistic and grounded, but the most of the Call of Duty that is actually successful is the more tech heavy, the more sci-fi
Yeah,
variants of it. So, and my Raptor assault helicopter, I mean, that it has guns, it has rockets, it's all the cool stuff, That of course that would fit like a Call of Duty game, like maybe not like a main prop or something, but like a kill streak or something where you can call it in. It's
nice.
like it wasn't designed specifically for that. It was just
Hmm.
more of a design exercise for a project that never came to fruition. So I just kept what I had and then just made it my own thing. And it's completely different from what it used to be. But if the project went through, it would have been cool. But now it was like, well, I have this basis for something cool, and let's just see what I can do with it.
Sick. Now, breakdowns. Would you be able or kindly take one of your designs and give us a breakdown as to, I guess, its origin story, how it came to life?
I think it would be interesting to talk about my Beetle mobile drone
Cool.
launch command center. Okay, so let's go back to the top. We're gonna talk about this design.
Let's go.
So basically, the whole point it came down to I wanted to create basically this giant truck, because I saw some sci-fi design and I was like, I want to design a massive truck.
Okay.
And yeah, basically it was partially just a design exercise, just having fun, basically. But then I actually had to create some purpose for it. Uh, and I came up with the idea that this is probably going to be a military truck, and well, this is not your average truck design. So what's gonna be? Well, nowadays drones are very popular, so it needs to be able to carry drones and also launch them, and then bring. But also had to bring quite a lot of drones, because I don't know how the modern battlefield is gonna be. So it needs more and more drones. So this whole thing started to become bigger, longer. It's gonna have this thing right here as an access port to insert more drones, and it probably needs people to have a command. So I had to add more uh, human spaces as well.
Uh huh.
Um, so and it's quite a highly mobile truck. So I thought about at first is making these giant wheels that can basically be used as shovels by driving through sand and mud and unfavorable positions. But they're big and chunky and don't look that nice as tires. So I had to change that. But basically, to become basically a life on its a life of its own.
Mm.
Started thinking about uh, details right here that I was looking at modern military technologies like active reactive systems. This thing actually being a very heavily armored design, so you have all of these giant metal plates. Uh, you have basically the cockpit here, and basically the people are not. Basically, the people are not uh, all over the design. Basically, the
Mm.
people are basically just situated here and nothing else. Like, get hit from the front, people are safe. If it's hit from the back, the people are safe. The drones maybe not. And I came up with uh, quite a lot of cool ideas. I think. Like if I zoom in here, you can barely see it, but it was used to. I wanted to open this or animate it that this part could open, so the
Mm.
drones could be reloaded into the launching system. And I was thinking about all of this, all of these elements. Everything needed to have a function. Why do we have this? We have. We have cameras here. We have anti-rocket systems here. We got all this uh, heavy stuff that's right here. For example, and everything is supposed to work for design and everything. And I even added this little thing right here on both sides, which are very tiny drones that can recharge on here, but are meant to scout around the area to
Mm.
get better situational awareness. And okay, so basically, because this thing is so massive and people are just sitting here in the middle, you barely have any situational awareness. So this thing is
Ah.
filled with cameras everywhere, and scanners and small camera drones. I think now that I look at it, I might have needed to take more time to clarify a little bit of this.
Mm.
You can see here the thing where the giant launcher can reload, and I think you can basically use this as a rocket launcher as well, I guess. But I mean, so it can be multifunctional, and but you can also see how far this thing is from the ground up, and that's this detail on the bottom. That I got from an episode about. I was watching this thing about armored cars where they have this weird metal V shape on the bottom, or a metal structure on the bottom in some sort of V shape, and that's all designed to mitigate explosive
Mm.
damage and stuff like that. So all of this was basically a giant sci-fi truck that went a bit haywire, and then I made some beauty shots for it, and I painted all of this grunge over it as well to make it dirty and make it work.
Excellent. What did you use to make this? What tools did you use?
This is mainly modeled in Moe 3D
Uh-huh.
and mostly rendered in Keyshots. And I
Nice.
made a few render passes where I went back to Photoshop and cleaned it up and painted over it.
Cool.
And this is basically what I had in Moe 3D. It's a CAD software. So a shape like you can see here, you see these weird uh, shapes happen, these weird shadows.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's because this is not a good shape for Moe 3D. It's not designed
Right.
to work with all of these very subtle shapes.
How long
It's
did it
great
take
for.
you?
I think in total, from beginning to end, this was a 3 weeks project. So
Nice.
while I was working this, if you can see here, the rendering and everything, that's like the last few days. It's where I come up with all these little decals. This is where I come up with the quality and then the type of
Mm.
materials you use to render and stuff like that. It's um, um, but and it's quite relaxing to a certain extent because you just take your time to match colors,
Hmm.
to match materials and stuff like that. But um, and the beauty about Keyshot is it's real-time rendering, so you
Mm.
instantly see the quality, what's gonna look like. So this allows for a lot of help when trying to figure out what you want. You can set up all of these camera angles from every side, and then you can
Mm.
still change the lighting and everything. And if you already set it up in a way like I want to start rendering this, you just build up a queue, and every shot can be different. Every shot can be a different camera angle. Every shot can be a different lighting scenario, and it saves it all, and then you can just process Q1, and then and a couple of hours later you have like a ton of cool renders that you then can use. Um, so yeah,
Cool.
this tends to be this right here is where I spend most of my time. Most of the time I just see my designs like this.
Yes. Is that where you prefer to be when you're creating? Like that, is that all the information you need?
That actually depends.
Right.
Usually, I actually want to rush it to this. That's why I
Hmm.
may because I tend to make some renders in between
Right.
because I want to see if it works.
Yes.
Uh, but that's not always the case because sometimes you have to just go back. As you can see here, the wheels went to a total overhaul again, just to make sure that
Hmm.
they read better as actual wheel as actual tires instead of um, whatever these blocky things are. And that's kind of
Cool.
that's sometimes the stuff I have to think about and deal with and change in the end.
Excellent. That's the wrap up for, I guess, the breakdown from Marnix. Thank you so much for that. And sadly, it's time to wrap up this episode as well. So glad, well, not glad that it took us this long to have a conversation again, at least in person or close to in person as possible. But it's fascinating seeing your journey throughout that time since, and just seeing your growth, of course, as an artist and as a designer too. And also, thanks for jumping on and sharing your journey and your wisdom as well. Any final thoughts or words from yourself before we head off?
Um, well, one of the things I might be able to say is everything that's going on in the industry right now, it has nothing to do with the quality of the people making cool things. It all comes down to some weird high level management, weird investments and stuff like that. So, with what Microsoft just pulled again as pulling a lot of funding for many projects, it's gonna be chaotic for quite a while, but they might suffer. We think we might suffer from that quite a lot, as we might not. We just lost jobs, or we might have trouble finding the next one
Mm.
because studios are a bit afraid. But this costs Microsoft a whole lot of money, and this allows for other studios probably to easier find a way to self-publish and do that kind of stuff and work around those things. And the other publisher will probably see that as like, well, if you don't do that, we'll be fine. So it's chaos out there. It still is, but I've seen the industry slowly change again for the better. So it's
Mm.
even if it seems chaotic right now, it will change. It will be back to normal soon. I think maybe in months, maybe in a couple of months, maybe next year. But it's not gonna take another 10 years to be back.
Mhm.
That's my prediction. So
Cool. Marnix, thanks so much for jumping on, man. It's been a pleasure.
thank you for having me.